What is going on, guys? It is Friday. It feels like a Friday, which means I don't really want to do much, but I'm going to do it anyway because the show must go on. I already had to get up super early, get a workout in before private security contracting work, and now that I have a bit of time, I want to get an episode in. I got a bunch of topics on the docket, but one that I think I can talk about just because it's easy and fun. I don't have to list a bunch of, specs or do a bunch of research. We can just talk about cool custom guns that I would want. Not that I'm about to get, right? Probably, but just guns that I think are really cool that I would like, that I think are pretty cool, and maybe you'll think they're cool too. With that, welcome to the podcast where we talk about guns, gun-related content, ballistics, tactics, use of force, stuff like that, the right way with God Almighty at the center, biblical Judeo-Christian values, and real-world first-hand experience. I'm blessed to be your host, military law enforcement, private security contracting, competition shooting, hunting since I was a boy, guide, firearms instructor, some other stuff. It's bio bullet points in the show notes. Okay, let's talk about just some cool guns if I was making custom rifles. If I was making custom rifles and I was making them based on stuff that I like. I like some weird stuff sometimes. Here's one that I would like. How about a Ruger 77 Hawkeye RSI. If you don't know what the RSI is, it's the international, the Mannlicher style stock, the stock that goes all the way out to the fore end. I think they're gorgeous. They do make some of these, obviously. They make the Ruger RSI, but mine would be a little different. I would make it stainless steel because I like stainless. I would actually still want to hunt with it. It's one of the best, most rugged, reliable actions that you can get on the market. I'd get it in stainless steel. I would get it with a blonde maple stock because I like that look. Now, the tricky part is caliber. If I'm building a custom rifle, I'm not getting it to be the most practical rifle, right? I'm probably, although this would be great in 30-06 or 308, I'd probably want it in something a little bit more custom. 6.5 by 55 Swede. That'd be a pretty good one since it's an international. Getting an international caliber would be cool. 6.5 by 55 would be cool. 7 by 57 Mauser would be cool. Let's go with something a little bit different. Even more different than those that we don't see often here in America. Maybe not so rare in Europe, but what if we're making this and we put it in an 8 by 57 Mauser, right? That'd be pretty cool. If we were going American, how about a 257, and why not make it a 257 Ackley improved Roberts? That would be pretty cool. That would be a fun shooting little gun. RSI, stainless steel, Ruger 77, control round feed, blonde wood action with the stock that goes all the way out to the fore end. That would be a really cool custom rifle. Mount it with a good LPVO on top, good iron sights to begin with, but a good some kind of quick detach system for a good LPVO, small LPVO, not some giant 1 to 10 or something, but a small like 1 to 4. That would be great. That'd be a fantastic rifle. Let's talk about something completely different custom rifle. An AR-15. Can't get much more different than a rifle from a old control round feed Mauser style action with Mannlicher style stock to an AR-15. There's tons of AR-15s in the market. Why would I want a custom one? Well, because I would want one in 6 by 45. I love the 6 by 45. I have said before, if I was doing the procurement for the U.S. military, instead of going with like a 277 Fury, I would have went with the 6 by 45. What is the 6 by 45? It's a pretty basic Wildcat. And it's basically just the 223 or the 5.56 by 45, and instead of putting a 22 caliber bullet on it, you neck it up to 6 millimeter. And this would let you get bullets up into the 100, 103, 107 grain range. But 100 grain is fine. 100 grain is quite a bit heavier than, even the 77 grain man stopper OTM match, right? The 100 grain. And I like 6 millimeter. I really love the 243. Now, this wouldn't be anywhere near as powerful as a 243. 243 is a full powered rifle cartridge. 5.56 is an intermediate. This would be a little bit better ballistically than the 5.56, which is why I think nobody really loads for it, because it's not much better, but it is a little bit better. And if I'm building a custom rifle, why not? You can easily just use the same brass as a 223 5.56 once it's fired. If you're reloading, just stuff 6 millimeter bullet in it and run it into the dies. Run it with whatever twist, a 1 and 9, 1 and 8. Run 100 grain bullets, that would be fine. I'd like a pencil barrel. I press 16 to 18, let's say 18 inches if I'm going custom. I'd like a super thin pencil carbon fiber wrap barrel. I would like a fixed stock, but not as heavy as like an A1 or an A2 stock. I'd like an A1 length, but I'd like just a tube with a stock on the end, with a butt pad on the end. Nothing big, nothing heavy, just my length of pull, customized to me, which is right around 13 inches length of pull. A good length of pull, good cheek weld, not adjustable. I don't need that, right? Just a good minimalist, lightweight 6x45 AR-15. A little bit better ballistics, lightweight. I like piston ARs, but I'd probably leave this one just direct impingement because I'm going for lightweight, and piston guns tend to weigh a little bit more. I put a good muzzle brake on it. No, I don't want a suppressor, so forget about that. A good modern lightweight M-lock handguard, a sling, a white light, and an LPVO, and I'd be happy with that. That would be a very cool custom build. If I'm going custom, I would have to either buy an old one and redo it or resurrect the old Remington. It's a hard choice. Either the Remington Model 7, which if you don't know is a smaller version of the Remington, like a smaller, sleeker, lighter version of the Remington 700, or the Mohawk, the 600, the 660, the 673. If I'm going just out of my mind that I can build whatever I want because it's imagination land, I would probably go with a 673, a Mohawk style. It's kind of a short carbine with a shotgun vent rib and iron sights on the top. Dog leg bolt, a really cool design for what I like to do, spot and stalk and still hunting and shooting like a man, off your legs or kneeling or prone, sitting, like not because you can't shoot using an artificial rest to lay your gun on, but like shooting with your own body position with a hasty sling. That's the kind of hunting I like. As far as I'm aware, they never made these in stainless steel. But if I'm going completely custom, like I can just have a CNC machine in my mind, I would build one, stainless steel, same dog leg, same short, probably 18-inch barrel. And they made it in some cool calibers, like the 350 Rem Mag, 6.5 Rem Mag. But I'd probably put it in 284 if I could. I'd probably put it in 284, which was kind of an early short magnum before the term short magnum was around, but a 284 Winchester. It's a rebated rim, a little bit thicker body than a 308, but a 7 millimeter. It's a really good ballistic performing cartridge. I think it would do really well on a carbine like this. That would be really cool. I would probably get it in some kind of laminated stock in a color scheme that I liked. Either that real dark wood, light wood color, or the grayscale. Actually, grayscale would probably look better with the stainless. So, that would be pretty cool. That would be a pretty cool little gun if I was just making stuff up in my mind. And one of my favorite rifles for doing the kind of stuff that I like to do, for scouting, for reconnoitering, the Ruger Gunsight Scout Rifle that sadly is no more. It is extinct as far as new manufactured guns go. They came out with a cheap plastic push feed. But the Ruger Gunsight Scout was a fantastic, based on a Mauser-controlled round feed action, really rugged, really robust, not very heavy. I'm blessed to own one. I got one before they stopped making them. I got one, the 16-inch stainless steel one, shocker there. But it's a fantastic rifle. But if I was designing my own, there's a few things that I might tweak on there. One of the great things about a scout rifle is it's supposed to be lightweight. I would probably look for a lighter carbon fiber style stock, like even lighter than the stock that came on it. Lighten that rifle a little bit. You could also likely get some spiral fluting in the barrel to lighten it up a bit, since, weight is kind of one of the important criteria for a scout rifle. I would put just 1 or 2 M-lock slots, nothing gaudy, but 1 or 2 M-lock slots around the front of the rifle if you did want to mount a white light. I'd also put the QD, those little circles for the QD slings. The QD sling is a really good idea. I like that better than the old school sling swivels. So if I'm designing the stock, I would do that. I would also redesign the rail. The way it is right now, the rail is only the scout rail, and I've tried, and there's really no good way to mount a regular scope on that gun. You have to mount a scout scope, which, to be fair, it's a scout rifle. So you have to mount a forward-mounted scope, which I actually don't like as much as a regular optic, like a regular LPVO in the regular position. I know there's advantages to it. I'm not saying they're all bad. I'm just saying I prefer a regular LPVO mounted in the regular position. But as it stands now, when you do that, if you want a good natural cheek weld, you have to remove the rear sight, which is one of the reasons I love the scout rifle, because it has good usable iron sights, especially when I'm hard on stuff and beat stuff up. So if I were redesigning that, what I would do is give it a full length, or I would give it a rail in the front or a slight section of pick rail on the back, and I would make the rear sight, instead of mount the way it is now, the rear sight mounts into the Ruger proprietary rings, I would just make it a pick rail adjustable rear sight for windage and elevation, so that you could either mount it in the back the way it is now, or if you wanted to, you could mount it forward, just like an old pre-64 Winchester Model 70. And you could mount a regular scope and you still have good backup iron sight. So either configuration that you wanted to do, you could do that. And you could use a regular LPVO, or you could use a forward-mounted scout scope. You could pick and choose. Pick your own adventure optic. If I were designing the scout rifle, and I would absolutely keep that controlled round feed action, I would not go to a cheap plastic push feed. So if I were designing that, and like my own scout rifle, that's probably what I would do. And what would a custom rifle episode be without a combo gun, without a drillings, a double rifle kind of deal? Now this really is a dream, because these are like 50, 60 grand for a good custom rifle, a good double, a good custom made double rifle. But obviously I want it fitted to me. If I'm building it for me, obviously if you're building it for you, you'd want it fitted to you. This one I wouldn't go stainless, but I would go nitride. Nitride looks a lot like bluing, but it's a lot more rugged and robust. If I was going to spend the money on one of these, I'd want it nitrided. So it looked kind of classic, good walnut stock, right, and a good finish. I would go nitride, QPQ, like that kind of finish. So it's like rugged and impervious as any finish can be. Longer barrel life, all the things, right? It's like a generational, God willing, hand-me-down gun, I would build something like that. So it looks like a classic blued walnut gun, but it's actually much better as far as stain resistance and as far as rust and stuff go, and longevity of the rifle. This is not an area that I'm super familiar with. I'm nowhere near about to buy a double rifle, but a fine double rifle, I'm going to say regulated, if I'm doing this in my mind, to 225 yards with the caliber I'm choosing, because that's my second, crossover point for a point of aim, point of impact. If I zero at 50, it's generally around the same at 225. A lot of people say 52, 50, but for me, I've found it's more like 50, 225. If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. But I would have it regulated to that distance, because you have to regulate the barrels, because obviously they have to converge at some point. I would have that. I would have good express-style sights with the leafs, so I could have different ranges on there. And I guess the big thing would be, right, caliber. I would do, even though this is a high-end custom rifle, for this, if it's going to be like an all-around hunting rifle, I would probably get it in 30-06. I would get it in 30-06 with a 1 in 10 twist. So I could shoot the 220 grain round nose if I'm bush hunting, and I could shoot lighter bullets if I want to. But 1 in 10 twist, 30-06 double rifle, so 30-06 by 30-06 for big game hunting. And then to make it an all-around versatile survival gun, I would give it a 410 bore on the bottom. It wouldn't add a lot of bulk. The 410 barrel doesn't have to be real thick, real heavy, and you kind of have that space in the middle anyway. So I'd mount a 410 underneath or on top, depending on how the custom gunsmith wanted to do it. I thought it would work better. But the 410, just for basic survival, if I'm out, stalking elk or something, and I see, a nice grouse, and I don't want to blow it up with my 30-06 round, that would be really cool to have a 410 underneath there. For smaller game hunting, for more versatility, and you're not going to add a lot of weight in ammo if you're going on this would be a cool rifle for like a long expedition hunt. For me, somewhere like, the Sawtooth Wilderness or the River of No Return, somewhere like that. That would be a cool rifle to have along. Obviously, you'd have scope mount, some kind of QD scope mount on top that you could take on and off and still use the iron sights. But that would be a really, really cool gun. Obviously, also probably a very expensive gun, but cool nonetheless. And if we're just dreaming here, like, why not? Why not dream that up? That would be pretty cool. The only kind of custom things I would put on there, maybe some kind of old school European artwork. And I'd put tritium sights on there, right? If I'm doing that, I would just have a simple tritium vial in the front sight, and I would have a small tritium vial in the rear sight so I could line them up like a figure eight, big one in the front, small one in the back. I would probably do that. And for this kind of rifle, I would have the floor plate, or not the floor plate, but the butt plate in the back. I would have that with a trap door, much like you would see it on some of the older rifles or the old military rifles. I would have a trap door in there where I could put, a bore snake, some cleaning kit, patches, an extra round of ammunition, and a compass. And I'd have it like kind of custom, like a little custom kit that just slid back in there and came out, where I had like my compass and my cleaning kit and a little bit of solvent and stuff like that in there. Maybe a little teeny brush for, a support kit, a survival support kit for that rifle. That would be pretty cool. Anyway, those are my thoughts on if I were building custom rifles, what I would build. Perhaps I'm the only one. Perhaps nobody would build anything like that. And I think all that is silly, and they would just get the next heavy, bench rest gun with a giant scope on it. But those are rifles that I'm interested in. If I was designing rifles, if I had a CNC machine in my head and I could just make those things come out, some cool stuff that I would build. All right, guys, with that, I appreciate you. I appreciate all that you do. It's kind of just a fun episode, just kind of riffing here off stuff I'm thinking about, and some of the stuff I just came up with as I was thinking. So hopefully you thought that was a cool episode. Again, it's a Friday, Not everything has to be serious, World War III, economic collapse type stuff. So hopefully you enjoyed this. And I have every verse is good, right? But I have a good verse of the day for this. And maybe some commentary for you guys. This is from the book of Ecclesiastes. Here is what I have seen. It is good and fitting for one to eat and drink and to enjoy the good of all his labor, in which he toils under the sun all the days of his life, which God gives him, for it is his heritage. As for every man to whom God has given riches and wealth and given him power to eat of it, to receive his heritage and rejoice in his labor. This is the gift of God. For he will not dwell unduly on the days of his life, because God keeps him busy with the joy of his heart. I'm going to read part of that again. It is good and fitting for one to eat and drink and enjoy the good of all his labor, in which he toils under the sun all the days of his life, which God gives him, for it is his heritage. My commentary there, because we have those good things because God gives it to us. We wouldn't have anything without God. We exist because he made us. If he didn't make us, we would not exist. And everything we have because he gave us. We got to remember that. And we should be good stewards of the things that he gives us. But we shouldn't, I don't think, feel guilty, right? Money is not evil, or stuff is not evil. The love of money is all evil. Making it an idol is evil. But if you work hard and you make an honest living for the stuff that you do, you should enjoy that. You should see that as a gift from God. And you should not worship it, right? I don't worship guns. I don't worship money, but they are a medium of exchange. They're a store of things. They're a way to put food on the table for my family. And if you earn your money rightly and justly without defrauding people, right? I don't know. This is a verse I don't have memorized, but when John the Baptist, that's the name I was trying to think of, John the Baptist, right? When he's baptizing people and the soldiers come to him, he says basically, be a good soldier. Don't defraud people. Be content with your wages, right? If you earned it justly and you weren't defrauding people, be content with that, and be content with what you have and what you've been given. It's a gift from God. Keep it in the right perspective. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all that you do, and have a blessed day.